it is easy to lose sight of why you started this journey in the first place. Remember that passion and that dream that you had of working towards a career in aviation. It is so important to stay connected with your why.
How many people go through life doing work they really don't like, but every day dreaming of, say, working in the aviation industry? They say it's too late. They think it would be too hard. They think it would go against conventional norms. If you never go after what you want, you'll never have it. This is Fly the Transition. Join us as we soar through the captivating stories of individuals embracing a thrilling journey into the aviation industry. From pilots spreading their wings to mechanics fine-tuning the engines and a myriad of industry professionals, each with a unique tale to tell. Get ready to dive into the diverse backgrounds, the pivotal moments that propelled their leap, and the sheer determination that transformed their aspirations into reality. We're not just about dreams. We're about making them take flight. Welcome to Fly the Transition. And now your host, Jim Schilling.
Welcome back, all my aviation friends, to another episode of Fly the Transition. This time we've got a solo show for you where we'll be navigating the skies of your midlife career change into the aviation industry. I'm your host, Jim, and today we're tackling a challenge that many aspiring pilots face, especially those who are making this transition later in life. How do you balance flight training with existing responsibilities? Whether it's work, family, or other commitments, finding that balance can be tough. But with the right strategies and mindset, it is definitely achievable. So let's start with a reality check. If you're transitioning into aviation while juggling a career, family life, or maybe even hobbies like podcasting, you're going to face some time management challenges. Flight training is demanding, and there is no getting around that. It requires a significant investment of time, not just for the actual flying, but for ground school, studying, and preparing for your written exams. But here's the thing, you are not alone in this. Many pilots have been in your shoes and successfully navigated this balancing act. We've talked to several of them on this podcast already. The key is to be realistic about the time commitment and to plan accordingly. It means making some tough decisions about what you can fit into your schedule, but that's part of the process. So let's start off by talking about prioritization and scheduling. One of the most effective strategies is to allocate specific slots in your week dedicated solely to flight training. Just like you would schedule a meeting or a doctor's appointment, block out that time in your calendar for your training sessions. This structured approach will help ensure that you're making progress without neglecting your other responsibilities. So let's dive a little bit deeper into this prioritization in your scheduling. These are two critical elements in this balancing act. So let's start by identifying what are your non-negotiables in your schedule. This can be family obligations, work, or essential self-care. Do you have commitments for your children to get them to certain places? Do you have a standing meeting with your boss certain days of the week? Or do you just need to go to the gym a couple times a week to make sure that you stay in shape? These are things that you need to consider in your personal planning. Once you account for these things, look at your weekly schedule and try to find those pockets of time for flight training. And we're talking about flight training. I'm not just talking about the time that you're spending in the air, but also that time where you can sit down and dedicate time to studying and getting ready for that next step in your aviation process. So for many midlifers, early mornings, evenings, and weekends sometimes become your prime time to get training done. It's about finding those windows of opportunity and capitalizing on them. So for some that I've talked to, when their kids go to bed at night, all right, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour per evening when the kids go to bed, and that's my study window, or that's my prep window to get ready for my next flight. You might not be able to train every single day, but the key is to stay consistent. So even if you can only fly once or twice a week, try to keep those sessions as regular as you can. Consistent practice will help you retain what you're learning and progress steadily through your training. In one of our early episodes, we talked with Christy Wong about this basic concept, and she talked about the distance between motivated and disciplined. So a refresher, motivated is just, I'm motivated to get this done, while discipline is sticking to it, creating a routine, and moving ahead. So on the topic of consistency, one tip that I think is really helpful is to develop a routine. Set a time the same time each week for your lessons. So for me, for example, I've taken a look at my schedule. I know what my obligations are. For family, I know when I have to drive my daughter to certain places. I know when I've got events at work that are going to conflict in the evenings. And I've found that window of time that makes sense for me. So for me personally, Wednesday evenings, I know that I have to drop my daughter off at church for her religion classes, which is really close to my home airport. So for the last year, as I've been working on my CFI rating, Wednesday evenings I set aside, that's my flight training night, and I will go to the airport and work with my instructor, present mock lessons, and kind of work through that rating. So having that consistency is not only helpful in planning, but also mentally prepares you for the learning process. It turns your training into a habit and something you look forward to rather than something that feels like a burden. So knowing that Wednesday nights, I'm going to have this lesson, I'm going to be prepared, and I know what I need to do to get into that mindset beforehand. So as you're working through your scheduling, the next thing you're going to want to think about is finding a flexible flight school or instructor. It's important here, if you have limited time, to find that instructor or school that is going to fit in with your life. Flexibility is going to be crucial here because you're balancing a lot of responsibilities. So look for a flight school or instructor that can offer customizable training schedules. Sometimes that can be a little bit more difficult with Part 141 programs, but not impossible. Ideally, you want to find a school that can accommodate evenings, weekends, or even early mornings. This is going to allow you to integrate flight training into your lifestyle without completely disrupting your other existing commitments. So what I would suggest is looking at the flight schools in your area, looking at those freelance instructors in your area, and finding out what works for you. Sometimes schools that are open 7 days a week with a large fleet of aircraft and a team of many instructors could be the solution for you. They may offer the kind of flexibility that can be a game changer, ensuring that you have multiple options to fit into your busy schedule. Or finding that freelance instructor that has that flexibility as well, where this is their whole gig. You're not going to have to worry about them leaving for the airlines at 1,500 hours, and they can book you into their schedule in a time frame that makes sense for both of you. So whether you're booking these sessions for a weekend or squeezing in a lesson after work, having that level of adaptability in your training schedule can make a huge difference. So go out and do your research. Another big key to making this work is communication, and that's with family, that's with work, that's with your instructor. So it's a key element when it comes to balancing flight training with your life. These other people are going to be in the mix. They are a factor that you have to take into consideration. Because if you're not working with your partners at home, your partners at work, you're going to run into more headaches and stress than you need through this journey. So if you have a family, it is crucial that you sit down, talk to them about your goals and what it's going to take to achieve them. Explain why flight training is important to you and how it fits into your larger life plans, and get them on board. Having that support can make a huge difference. They may be able to help take on some of your other responsibilities or even get involved in your training process. Especially if you're doing this in the space of a career change, there's going to have to be certain sacrifices made on both sides. So it is really important to have that open communication about what this looks like so that you can be successful through your journey. The same thing with communication goes for your workplace if you are still working and haven't completely dedicated yourself to the switch. Depending on your job, you may find that there's abilities to get some flexibility in your work schedule, especially as you're nearing check rides or certain periods where you need to really step things up with your training. You may also have certain weather windows that are ideal for flying, and you may want to have that flexibility to take a day off on a day that's really great to go fly. The big thing here is to be open and honest with your employer about what your goals are and see if there's a way to make your schedule more conducive to your training. You may be surprised in some cases how supportive they can be. This may not always be the case, but it's certainly worth the conversation. So for me personally, as I mentioned, I'm trying to figure out times to work through my CFI rating with a busy family life, busy work schedule with a lot of responsibilities, and this hobby of podcasting. So in talking with my supervisor at work, we were given the option over the summer months to work 10-hour shifts. So in doing that, I was able to then take that schedule and know that, all right, on Fridays, I'm going to take off, and that's going to be a flight training day for me. So in addition to the Wednesday evenings that I have, now I've added Fridays through the summer when it fits with my instructor. And I'm able to then treat that day as not necessarily just a work day, but like I'm going to make flying my job today. So I will take those Fridays. I will go have a lesson in the morning. Then I'll spend the afternoon writing lesson plans for future lessons and doing other studying to keep myself on track. So I was able to communicate with my employer able to take advantage of a scheduling opportunity that came about and make the most of the time that I could find to get flight training in. And we certainly can't forget about your flight instructor or your school. Open communication with them is just as vital. Make sure they understand what your time constraints are so that you two can develop a training plan that's tailored to fit your lifestyle. With that clear communication, you can also reschedule lessons or make necessary adjustments without really losing momentum in your training. I'm fortunate to have an incredible instructor where I'm able to sometimes on the fly make changes to the schedule, whether it be, hey, something came up at work and I can't make this lesson that we scheduled for this morning. And then we can look at the schedules and then go from there. And then we also take time at our lessons to sit down, look at the schedule moving ahead and figure out what we can plug in, what we might need to adjust based on what's going on, both in my life and in her life. So communication all the way around is really important to help you be successful on this path. So now that we've looked at our schedule, let's talk about making the most of the time that we are able to schedule for these lessons. So when your schedule only allows you to fly maybe once a week, preparation becomes so important. Before each lesson, make sure that you're taking the time to review what you've learned in the previous session and know what's coming up so that you can prepare before you get to the airport. Going over these notes, studying the maneuvers that you'll be practicing, and then mentally walking through your flight can be great pre-flight preparation. This kind of prep also ensures that once you do get in the airplane, you're ready to hit the ground running, or rather, the sky's flying. If you're able to find digital content, whether it be YouTube videos or a digital training syllabus through your school or other type of online ground school program, use those to your advantage as well. These can help you track your progress. You can go back and review lessons, and you can see what's coming up next. By staying organized and prepared in this manner, you'll maximize every minute that you spend in the air, making the most of the limited time that you do have to train. There's nothing worse than having to get into the airplane and having to rehash things because you weren't necessarily prepared for the lesson. When this happens, you can take away critical time that you could be using to move on to the next maneuver or to fine-tune one that you might need a little bit more practice on that you've been studying for. Something else that can help prepare you for those flights and make up for some time when you might not be able to make it to the airport for weather, maintenance, or life getting in the way is an at-home flight simulator like Microsoft Flight Simulator or X-Plane or something like that. You can use some of these at-home flight simulators to help fine-tune your skills and keep them sharp. Now, you can't log these hours, but that doesn't mean that they're without value. There's a lot of foundation that can be built in chair flying, and using a flight sim can also help reinforce what you've already learned. It can allow you to practice procedures and maneuvers from the comfort of your own home. This could even be buttonology with the GPS unit that you're new to. So repetition can be key in aviation. Even if you're not able to physically get in the airplane and fly, you're still training your mind, you're building that muscle memory. This can be even more helpful when you can only make it to the airport to fly once a week. I mean, going to the airport, pulling out the airplane, doing your pre-flight, all that stuff takes time. So if you only have a short window some evening where you can't make it to the airport, using an at-home flight simulator can help you continue to become familiar with steps and procedures and then make that time in the cockpit even more efficient for you. So as you're moving along this journey, there's a few things that are going to help you also be successful. That's consistency, patience, and perseverance. Consistency is key in your flight training. Even if you can only dedicate a few hours a week, this will lead to steady progress. Consistency can build momentum, enhance your learning curve, and bring you closer to your aviation goals. But with trying to maintain that consistency also comes a need for patience and perseverance. Flight training is a journey, and like any other journey, there will be challenges along the way. You're going to feel frustrated by slow progress. You're going to get overwhelmed with complexity of some of the things that you're learning that are just outside the box. And as an older learner, there's challenges with that as well. But remember, each small step forward is progress. Each hour you log, every lesson that you take, brings you closer to your dreams of becoming a pilot. It is really easy to get discouraged, especially when life gets in the way, but this is where perseverance comes in. Stay focused on your end goal. Keep pushing forward even when things feel like they're getting tough. The satisfaction of achieving your dream will be well worth your efforts. We also need to keep in mind managing stress and avoiding burnout. Let's be real. Balancing flight training with everything else in your life can be stressful. If you're not careful, it can lead to burnout. That is why it's so important to manage your stress and make time for rest and relaxation. One of the biggest stressors is feeling like you're not progressing quickly enough, whether that be through your individual ratings, whether it be a certain maneuver or lesson that you're just stuck on. Those can end up being stumbling blocks. But you have to remember, flight training is a marathon, not a sprint. So take your time, work through those difficult moments, and you'll be successful on the other side. What matters most is that you are absorbing the information and you become a safe, competent pilot, not just rushing through these steps. It's also vital to listen to your body and your mind. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to take a step back. Even if that means delaying your next lesson by a week or just hitting pause for a couple days. I know I talked about consistency, but we have to listen to our body and mind as well. A clear and focused mind is much more effective in the cockpit than one that's bogged down by stress or worrying about other commitments in our lives. So finally, let's talk about motivation. When the going gets tough and you're trying to balance it all, it is easy to lose sight of why you started this journey in the first place. Remember that passion and that dream that you had of working towards a career in aviation. It is so important to stay connected with your why. Whether it's a dream of becoming an airline pilot, flying for fun, you want to work in air traffic control, or simply challenging yourself to learn something new, keep that goal front and center. Another way to stay motivated is to celebrate those small wins. Did you just successfully complete a challenging maneuver? Say that you were having difficulty with your landings and now you're nailing them. Did you pass your written exam? Celebrate those milestones. They're all steps towards your ultimate goal. Another tip is to visualize your future career. Imagine yourself in the cockpit navigating through the skies, and think about how all that work you're putting in now is getting you closer to that reality. Balancing flight training with existing responsibilities is no small feat, especially later in life. But with careful planning, open communication, and a clear focus on your goals, it's not only possible, it is incredibly rewarding. You're proving to yourself that you can pursue your passions for aviation no matter the challenges that come your way. So take it one day at a time, stay motivated, and remember that every hour that you log and every lesson you complete, it's bringing you closer and closer to your dream of becoming a pilot. Well, that'll do it for this solo episode. Thank you for joining me, and hopefully these tips are helpful. So until next time, keep your eyes on the sky and your dreams soaring high.
You've been listening to Fly the Transition. Life is too short for you not to do what you love. And our passion is to give you all the tools you need to make the transition from doing what you do to being in the aviation industry. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, you can reach out by email at flythetransition@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook at Fly the Transition. And the website for Flying Midwest Media is flyingmidwest.com. Keep soaring. See you next time on Fly the Transition.